I'm so lonely, broken angel. I'm so lonely, listen to my heart.
من دوست دارم به چشم من گریه نده نه نمیتونم بدون تو حالم بده
I'm so lonely, broken angel. I'm so lonely, listen to my heart. One and only broken angel. Come and say
کنارتم تا آخرش دیوونتم تو نمیدونی که جونمی برگرد پیشم
I'm so lonely, broken angel. I'm so lonely, listen to my heart. One and only broken angel. Come and save me before I fall apart.
When the collision occurs, the pedestrian will be thrown away from the vehicle depends on the vehicle's speed and is directly proportional. If it hits the victims at 102 miles per hour, the victims will be thrown 500 feet away. Witnesses who saw the cars before the collision were unable to determine the exact speed, distance, or activity of the cars. One of the investigators saw that the accident occurred at low speed. After the crash, Jessica was thrown 40 feet and Lilia's 70s wagon, referring to the engineering reference for calculating a vehicle's speed according to pedestrian distance. I found that Herrin's vehicle speed does not exceed 40 miles per hour.
Monitor what was happening, because there wasn't any drinking and there wasn't any marijuana use, and I can be assured of that because I was there the entire time.
As you reconstructed the events, you concluded that at the time of the impact, the Mustang was traveling between 30 and 40 miles per hour, correct?
At impact, yes.
The 77-page motion refutes that, claiming the speed of the Mustang, which struck the victims, was traveling between 30 and 35 miles per hour, well under the speed limit at the time. There were also no signs of skid marks or any witness claiming the two cars were racing side by side. Yet this information was never shared with the judge.
Case, there wasn't any evidence, and nor does the court believe that there was any specific intent to do harm in this case.
Do you know Cameron Herrin?
I do.
And has he been a patient of yours?
He has.
Would you first tell us, when did you first see Cameron Herrin in your office?
I first saw him following this tragic accident in June of 2018. He was distressed, and his family was overwhelmed. I believe he actually got my name through you, his attorney. I agreed to see him for an evaluation and then agreed to see him as a patient.
Since that date, is that correct?
Yes, June.
A short time after the accident.
Yes.
Is that correct? How many times have you met with Cameron Herrin?
I've met with him in person in my office between approximately 30 to 40 times. I have also spoken with him on the phone and his family members probably another at least 30 to 40 times.
So So keeping it kind of general for a few moments here, was Cameron in some distress when you first met with him?
He was in extreme distress. He was not out of touch with reality, but his ability to be rationally and logically connected to his surroundings and his circumstances was weak and failing.
Did you find it necessary to prescribe medications?
I did.
What medications did you prescribe, and what was the diagnosis that resulted in those prescriptions?
The initial diagnosis was an acute stress syndrome related to what he described to me as I killed two people, and his terror and horror at thinking that he had done such a thing and that he was responsible for such a thing. He was prescribed antidepressant and anti-anxiety medications in order to allow him to sleep and maintain reasonable, logical connection with reality.
And from the beginning, did he accept responsibility for what he did?
He did indeed. I noted today in the testimony.
For what he did?
He did indeed. I noted today in the testimony, and I've heard this before.
So if you would you take us through the different meetings in your office and how things progressed during the course of your treatment, kind of a 30,000-foot view?
Sure. Maybe a 5,000-foot view, if you will. Within a few weeks, I became less concerned that he was going to completely disconnect with reality and require hospitalization. He stabilized a bit. That was partly related to his return to his faith, his belief in God, his understanding that God forgives. He might never be able to forgive himself, but God forgives. He didn't believe that God would forgive him, but he believed that God does forgive. In the initial weeks of treatment, he had the illogical, disconnected fantasy that he could somehow trade his life for these two people he killed. He knew cognitively, intellectually, that that wouldn't happen, but he repeatedly returned to that theme in his interactions with me. I noted in the testimony today that one of his friends said something about trading his life. I had never heard that before from someone else, but I heard it from him repeatedly in the first weeks of his treatment. He knew that that couldn't happen. He knew that if he killed himself, that wouldn't bring anybody back and it would make things worse, but he was preoccupied with fixing this, with turning the clock back, with doing something magical that would change things, and was absolutely committed to doing anything that he could possibly do. I worked with him to help him understand that it wasn't an either-or thing. It wasn't bring these people back to life or give up on life, that there was something in between. There was some hope to move forward, to stay alive, to work, to be a part of his family, to face up to the charges and accept responsibility that had value. That was very difficult for him because he saw it as an all-or-nothing thing. This was the extent of the remorse and the depth of the remorse that I saw in him in the first several weeks of treatment. As that continued, he did get better, and he started thinking about other issues and other aspects of this, always returning to the same theme of what could he do to make things better. Better for his family, better for the victim's family, better for the community, better for anybody and everybody.
Well, does he pose any future threat to society? And please explain.
I absolutely believe that he does not. And the illogical, disconnected fantasy that he could somehow trade his life for these two people he killed. He knew cognitively, intellectually, that that wouldn't happen. But he repeatedly returned to that theme in his interactions with me. I noted in the testimony today that one of his friends said something about trading his life. I had never heard that before from someone else, but I heard it from him repeatedly in the first weeks of his treatment. He knew that that couldn't happen. He knew that if he killed himself, that wouldn't bring anybody back and it would make things worse, but he was
I'm so lonely, broken angel. I'm so lonely, listen to my heart.